Hello, my name is Harry Ricks, and I am the founder of Expensemate.io, the platform that exists to make the world of business transactions simple. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about the platform, most notably the app and the card element of our system. If you're interested in our administrative portal, then please view one of our other YouTube videos. So the focus of today, being on the card and the app, means that we'll be focusing on the persona that actually submits expenses. So whether that's using the Expensemate card, whether that's submitting reclaimed expenses using their own personal card, or whether that's submitting mileage reimbursements. So without further ado, I'm going to show a quick slide which gives an overview of how the whole system works, and then I'll jump into the demo of the card and the app. So the main elements that we're focusing on today is sections 1 and 2. I will touch on 3 and 4 very quickly. So you can make purchases with the Expensemate card, but what's a little bit different about a card is that you can set category limits on the type of spend the card can make. So this card can buy anything, whereas another card can only purchase fuel and business travel. So you can restrict proactively what the cardholder can buy. You can also set daily, weekly, and monthly limits on the card. So you can put max limits at an individual card level. As soon as you make a purchase on that card, the next thing that's going to happen is the application will immediately track any data that comes from the card. So that means that you'd get a push notification saying, for example, Harry, you've just spent £10 at McDonald's. Please capture a picture of your receipt. It's then super intuitive just to simply capture that receipt by opening and swiping to open the app, and it will be immediately on that journey. Every single transaction that happens on the Expensemate card, we are doing calculation on the back end to look at the carbon footprint of that transaction. And we're also enabling people to capture journeys. So from point A to B, where we'll look at the type of car and the mileage to give an accurate reimbursement, but also, again, accurate carbon score to really educate users on the impact of their business travel. The same applies for anything such as flights, bus travel, anything that would fit into the Scope 3 indirect travel emissions under the SECL reporting and GHG requirements. The next area is after that, you kind of log your receipts. It's going to be about monitoring the transactions that come through. So all of the admin users will get access to the desktop system. They can see real time all of the transactions coming through. They can have some smart bookkeeping automations that align transactions to nominal codes based on how the user has classified the expense. And then when they've got all their data ready, approved by the manager and checked from a bookkeeping perspective by the accountant or administrator, they can then integrate that data with the accounting software package that their business uses. They can also create some ESG reporting direct from the system, which is fantastic for any SECR reporting requirements or any net zero targets that a business might have. So that's the main basis of how it works. Now I'm going to jump into the demo, which is focusing specifically on the 2 elements that I mentioned earlier, the card and the app usage itself. So here is the Expensemate app. Now what you can see here is a bit of information that's useful to the user about the amount of money that they have left to spend. They can see any tasks that they haven't yet completed. They can add manual receipts, they can add a journey, and they can view a historic view of all the expenses that they've previously submitted by transaction basis. So the first journey I'm going to show you is how you'd submit an expense. So if we go down here, you can click on the top transaction. So if you imagine that on the 9th of January, a transaction was made at the bakehouse, this would pop up saying, Harry, you've just spent £12 at the bakehouse, please capture your receipt. You'd open the app, and then this is the journey that you'd go through to submit that expense. So first of all, you click on it. This is the transaction in question that I'm interested to look at. I get a carbon score based on the amount of carbon associated to that purchase. I can then process the transaction. So I'm going to add a receipt, first of all, which comes from the file. Once I'm happy with the receipt that I've submitted, I can click next. Then I categorize the expense. This is helping the admin team know exactly which nominal codes to put the expense against, and also helping them with their VAT coding. So I'm going to put that it was meals and entertainment. I'm going to say it's client entertainment. And then you come through and you can see a summary of all the information that you've submitted. So I could click on the receipts. I could see the group that it's allocated to. So this might be the cost center that you allocate the expense to. So this will automatically register to your default group. But if you were, say, working for a different department, or you had a particular project, you could add that at this point so that the admin knows exactly where to assign that expense to. You can see the total amount and the tax amount from the transaction. You can edit that, or you can add a new item, which might be splitting the coding based on different VAT rates. You can add notes if you need to explain the transaction, and you can click if you're happy and complete. So once you've completed that, you can come down to the bottom and you can see that that transaction is no longer in your to-do list. So the next journey that I'm going to talk about is the actual journeys itself. So this is looking at when you've done a journey from point A to B as part of a business mileage journey. So if we take an example of one that's already submitted, so one that was 123 miles, you can see the total amount of miles that you traveled this year as well. You can see again, it's allocated to a group, it's given a date, and you can see here that it's also allocated to a particular vehicle. Now this is really important because that will inform one, the reimbursement amount, if that varies based on the pence per mile you get based on the vehicle, but also it's going to inform the carbon emissions associated to that particular journey. You can change the number of passengers in the car, which might impact the reimbursement amount, and you can add some notes as well for the manager that will be approving this expense. If you're happy with all the data that you submitted, then you can come and check this anytime, where you can simply go back to your list of all the different journeys, and you can see where you've traveled and which ones have been approved. The next journey that I'm going to show is just some information about the card itself and where you can spend using the card. So if the card has a particular profile put upon it, then you can see this on this section of the app. So you can see that this is under the spend profile engineer, and it's got different categories of spend such as fuel, materials, food and entertainment, but it can't make online transactions, for example. You can see the billing address, which is useful if it was enabled for online transactions. You can show your PIN at any time, and you can freeze and cancel the card with security features. An additional point is that at any time you can click onto the app on the card to see your eco rating. So this is really around educating users about not only the amount that they're spending, but about the carbon footprint of their transactions. So it's really just helping businesses to measure, but also enabling users to start thinking about the consequences of their transactions, and maybe going on a particular travel journey where they could have maybe done that over Zoom instead. So you can see historically all of the different amounts based on the different months, which is just some nice data to play back for the user. I won't go over the journey because we saw the receipt capture journey earlier, but you could just add a manual receipt by clicking the plus button there, and that would go through exactly the same journey, but you just have to enter in the amount and the location manually instead of the system intuitively knowing exactly where you spent the money. So that is the end of the demonstration of the card and how it links to the app. Obviously, we're available to talk through that in more detail. If you have any questions, just please book a demo through our website. As mentioned earlier as well, if you're interested in some of the approval workflows, bookkeeping automations, or exports from the admin portal, then please view one of the other videos on our YouTube channel where we'll talk through that in more detail. We look forward to speaking to you soon, and hopefully we can make business transactions simple for the foreseeable future for you. Thank you very much. Goodbye.